I continue to be astonished by people I know to be intelligent and well-informed enough to know better, and yet who parrot leftist lies, especially now directed toward Donald Trump, a man who, had he run on the Democratic ticket, would have received their adulation, even had he espoused exactly the same platform he's taken today. No Republican Kool-Aid drinker am I. I know a lot of Republican politicians spew lies too. But most of these are neocons, Republican progressives who, thanks to Trump, are returning to the Democratic fold from which they emerged some 50 years ago. For those of you too young to remember, Irving Kristol led Democratic warhawks to take over the GOP. But now his son, Bill Kristol, is leading them back to support Hillary Clinton. Seeing this, you'd think that would tell the Democratic rank and file that they should be supporting Donald Trump. Now, of course, everybody knows that American Indians all support the left. But as with so many other things that everybody knows, it just ain't true. Leftists, however, expect and demand that it be true, and many are outraged when they come across Indians like me who support a more conservative political agenda. I talked about that in a video I posted a few days ago about sexist, racist, leftist women. At about the same time that happened, Gayasi Ross, a Blackfeet man well known throughout Indian country as a storyteller, posted an article on the Huffington Post titled, "Native Americans Need Hillary to Actually Be an Ally Against the Dakota Access Pipeline." In this video, I want to address some of the leftist lies about Donald Trump that Gayasi echoed in his article. Quote, "Trump wants to stop Muslims from coming into this country," close quote. That's a lie. Trump has repeatedly stated that he wants to temporarily suspend immigration from hostile countries, most of which these days are Islam. Several previous administrations have done this. When you're at war, you don't want people from hostile nations passing freely across your borders. During World War II, for example, immigration from Germany and Japan, among others, was suspended. Duh! What Trump proposes just makes sense, especially when we see the havoc wreaked by Muslims in Europe, not to mention recent violent events in the United States. How many people in America will have to be murdered and raped by Muslims before the leftists and neocon progressives will care? Quote, "He wants to deport 11 million Mexicans," close quote. That's a lie. He wants to deport 11 million illegal aliens. Many of them are Mexicans, many are not. But he does not want to deport any Mexicans who are here legally. Quote, "He wants to put a wall between the United States and a nation of people who belong on this continent more than he does," close quote. So it's all right for Mexico to plan to build a wall along their southern border, but not for the United States? And as for Mexicans belonging on this continent more than Trump does, I find it hard to believe that Gayasi is so ignorant that he is unaware that Mexico, like the United States, is a nation of immigrants. How does a man named Vicente Fox belong on this continent more than Donald Trump does? Vicente Fox, who is the former president of Mexico and was born in Mexico, is Irish. That's right, his parents immigrated from Ireland to Mexico. Millions of Mexicans have zero native blood. Like the United States, Mexico is a nation of immigrants. Just because they speak Spanish... Oh, wait a minute, let me think. Spanish. Native. Spanish. Kind of sounds like Salish, but different languages, very different. Spanish is a European language, for heaven's sakes. Racist leftists promote the view that because the relatively benign British colonizers, later superseded by the more belligerent American pioneers, pushed out the Spanish conquistadors, that from the Strait of Juan de Fuca to California and the southwest United States, it all rightfully belongs to, are you ready for this, the wealthy Mexican oligarchs. Fools. And it's not like Mexico treats its native population so well. They don't. Quote, "He said the Mashantucket Pequot tribal members didn't look like Indians to him," close quote. Yes, and a lot of other tribes in that region say exactly the same thing. There's a lot of African American blood in the Pequot tribe. There's a lot of European blood in my tribe, and many tribes in the Seattle area say the same thing about us. One difference is that the native ancestry of my tribe's members is extremely well documented, while the Pequot's ancestry dates back to before such meticulous records were possible or kept. So if Gayassi is going to condemn Trump for this, then he has to condemn a lot of tribal members too. Quote, he's also backed the Keystone XL pipeline, which local tribal members fought tooth and nail to stop. While in North Dakota, he said of the KXL, I want it built, but I want a piece of the profits. Close quote. Yes, so? The Keystone pipeline would have carried oil from the Canadian tar sands, where they've been cleaning up the naturally polluted region. The tar sand operations look horrible until after they're done, and then they leave the place in better condition than when they started. All of the people who oppose the Keystone and Dakota access pipelines burn gas to travel to their protest sites. They rely on oil for electricity and to ship groceries and supplies, and they all want cheap gas. Now, some of my tribal members participated in the protest. I know them. Their intentions were sincere, but I think they are motivated more by emotions than by the facts. The pipelines transport oil safer and cheaper than do the oil trains that belong to Warren Buffett, and the motivation for opposing the pipelines seems more about fighting climate change than anything else. Fighting climate change is a fool's errand. Climate always changes and has been doing so for millions of years. For centuries, American Indian tribes, including my own, filled the air with carbon emissions by burning millions of acres every year to maintain the prairie habitats. Climate change fearmongers started with global warming, but then changed their meme to climate change once it became obvious that while the globe has been warming for thousands of years, it's been in a cooling cycle for the past 17 years or so. 19 years, I think. Climate change of this magnitude occurs in cycles, and we are currently in a cooling trend. In fact, a new Maunder minimum may be starting, which will bring in a new little ice age, or maybe a big ice age. I would prefer it to be little. So while I share the Standing Rock Sioux tribe's legitimate concerns about preserving burial and culturally significant sites, and about ensuring watershed protection, the facts are that pipelines have a much better safety record than oil trains do. And while tribes may succeed in blocking a couple of pipelines, they're not going to stop big oil, not by a long shot, because there are new, huge oil discoveries and oil recovery technologies being made all the time. A huge one was just discovered in Alaska, and that one already has a pipeline. Cheap oil is here for many years to come. Quote, in this campaign, though, I haven't heard him even mention Native people once, close quote. So, unlike Hillary Clinton, Trump doesn't hand out political favors to buy votes. The evidence is undeniable and mounting that Clinton is a pay-to-play politician. And while the gimme-gimme crowd of trough feeders may want somebody who will buy their votes, a lot of American Indians have had enough of the crooks and just want somebody who will put America first. Now, I understand that tribal leaders are politicians. Right now, the political winds have been blowing to the left, and being politicians, tribal leaders are leaning to the left. But things are beginning to change. During the next several years, the political winds will be blowing to the right with increasing intensity. Hillary might be elected next month, or maybe Donald will. No matter which one, tribal leaders need to not alienate whoever the president is or will be. Absent fraud, and remember, Clinton stole state elections from Sanders, and let's not forget the year that George W. Bush stole the election from Gore, all the objective data says Trump will win. If he loses, it will probably be due to fraud. But if he does win, do tribal leaders really want to alienate him? Personally, I support Trump. Not because I want or even think that by doing so I could curry favor from him for my tribe. I'm persuaded that he is the president America needs now. I don't pretend to speak for my tribe on this matter, but I do know many of my fellow tribal members agree. Oil pipelines are better than oil trains, and we need Donald Trump.